and Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright.
I made a request for a seat change. Jenna was feeling neglected because I would fist bump with Cece and I couldn't quite reach her. So now Jenna, one time. There we go.
Okay, that is
go back to normal tomorrow, please. Good morning, everybody.
There were other options. We decided on this one because me behind there was not one of them. Anyway, it's good to be next to you. We're going to have some major paper issues I can see already, but I say we just work through it and we go as we go.
Agreed.
Perfect. All right. Let's start talking some football. After numerous appeals, Ezekiel Elliott has decided to drop it all and serve the full 5 games remaining of his 6-game suspension. Elliott made a statement that this was not an admission of guilt in any way. So the Cowboys will play the Eagles, the Chargers, the Redskins, the Giants, and the Raiders without their second-year star running back. Let's bring it out here now. And, Cece, I ask you, what was your reaction to Zeke dropping his appeal?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, especially at this juncture where he was already serving 4 of the 6 games before he can get a hearing. From the beginning, I really thought the NFL had a very, very strong case. So not in one point in this whole discussion, this journey with Ezekiel Elliott, did I ever think that it would be reduced or did I ever think that it would be rescinded? Like, I thought that he was going to get a 6-game suspension. He got a 6-game suspension. The NFL thought that what he was involved with a young lady was worthy to be put in the to the full extent of the domestic violence policy, the new one, which requires 6 games to be missed. I think it's good for Zeke. He can have all the press releases he wants to, but I think it's a personal time for him to be able to reflect on his life. He can, whatever goal he ever had before this incident happened, he can still reach those goals. He's got a great support system around him in the Dallas Cowboys, in their ownership. This next 5 weeks off, he can take some time. I heard that he's going out of the country and working on not only his body, but working on himself. So that's a good thing. I'm not into him admitting if he did it or not, but I think it's good for the organization. I think more importantly, it's good for Zeke to recognize something he did caused him to miss 6 games in his NFL career.
What do you mean it's good for the organization?
It's good for the organization because now they're able to move on. Like, the other players don't have to continue answering questions. They can kind of prepare for, we have a mini season, which is 5 games. This is our personnel. There's no need to talk about some other guy because it's like a mystery guy going to show up. No, that's not going to happen. So it's great for them in their overall planning. It's better for Alfred Morris, you know, as a football player. It's better for Dak. It's better for the offensive line. It's better for the defense to know. All right, we're not going to have. So everyone knows that we have to do a little bit more. Not a lot more. Everyone just do a little bit more.
So before I talk about what this means for the Cowboys, there's one point I want to make as far as like Zeke Elliott's guilt or innocence, because he's saying, you know, I'm not admitting any guilt. Cris, you and I have talked off the air. You were the first person to break this story that he was going to be suspended. You have very good reason to believe, and I, from talking to you, very good reason to believe he is guilty of what he's accused of. But let's just say for a moment he's not. We know he's guilty of pulling that young lady's top down. We know that.
Right.
Nobody's disputing that. And anyone out there today saying, you know, Zeke's been treated unfairly, Zeke shouldn't be suspended, those things, I just reject it. Let's say all he did was pull that young lady's top down. That's not okay. Like, in 2017, as we are starting to become a more, if you will, evolved society on women being full citizens and equal partners in all of this, we need to, even the dumb jock doesn't get to get away with that. So now we know Zeke is suspended. And I would like, if something good can come out of this for people that watch this show, for football fans, for the league, it might be an opportunity for the NFLPA and the NFL, which seem to be butt heads at every turn, to come together and say, guys, is there a better way for us to handle these things? We know as the NFLPA, Roger, we gave you full authority. Like, we gave that to you in the CBA. But right now, the NFL can't like the fact that while Rodgers has the full authority, as soon as he uses that authority, we have appeal after appeal. Like the NFLPA then has legal rights as a union to use appeals. There is, to me, a way out of this, which is the NFL says, you know what, NFLPA, you've wanted an independent arbitrator, mediator for these instances. We'll give you that. What we want is the commitment. Whatever that independent arbitrator, mediator decides is the discipline will never be appealed. It will, like, that is the new addition to the collective bargaining agreement. We will take it out of the commissioner's hands, as you have asked, and you guys have to tell us that football fans in America will never have to worry about this appellate court, this federal judge, who he or she is married to and what law firm they've worked at, because that's not good for football. Like, I feel like that could be a good solution for these situations moving forward. I don't know if the NFL would be okay with it. I don't know if the NFLPA would be okay with it. But I think for football fans, it would be the best situation possible because nobody wants, unfortunately, we know, CC, there's going to be another domestic violence incident involving football players. We know that. Nobody wants another 8-month saga attached to it.
Fully agree. I can't see the NFLPA agreeing to something like that. I just don't see it with how hard they fight each individual case. They fought the Deflategate situation as hard as they're fighting a domestic abuse allegation. I mean, with equal fervor and strength.
The players represented by the Players Association, they should have a right, just like normal citizens, innocent until proven guilty. So there should be a process, because this is a privately held business. There should be a process for them to be able to appeal some type of judgment by the league office.
I have one question just about Zeke, and you touched on this. The 5 weeks he has off. I know he can't be a part of the team and he can't practice with the team. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
So, you know him and you know the family. Like, tell me what goes through his head, what he has to do, how he keeps himself healthy, you know, out of trouble, in a good frame of mind, physically and emotionally. So when he does join this team, he hasn't lost a step.
Right. Zeke's a smart kid, all right? And he's not a bad guy, all right? He's just a little immature and not self-aware the way that he should be. Doesn't understand the magnitude of small decisions made in 15 seconds. They can change your life, especially when you're a member of the NFL, and especially being a prominent member of the Dallas Cowboys. I think since Zeke has started this process, I believe he's made some adjustments in his personal life before he decides to accept the suspension. I know that from people being close to him. He's very, very aware as far as the things he's been involved in. He's not proud of those things. He's not admitting to the sexual assault, domestic violence aspect, but he is reflecting on his life, realizing he can make better decisions, realizing he can be a better teammate, he can be a better man, he can be a better son, and those things he's trying to work on before this.
Sure. From a football perspective, CC, for the other 52 guys in that locker room, is there a benefit to there now being closure on this? To knowing, like, okay, you've said, and I'm sure they knew, listen, Zeke's eventually going to serve these 6 games. And they knew going into last week's game, Zeke's definitely going to serve the next 4. But then we don't know about the next 2. And maybe he wins that appeal briefly, and we go on a winning streak. And then it hits in the playoffs. Or coming. Is there a benefit to the fact that now everyone knows when this thing started, when this thing will end, the games they will have to play without him?
Yeah, when we had 12 games to go in the season, it really wasn't a big deal. The start of the season wasn't a big deal. Even when we got to 8 games left in the season, it still wasn't a big of a deal because they knew he could serve the suspension and still come back, and they were still in the playoff hunt. But now, 2 weeks ago, when he wasn't notified until on a Friday, now that's not fair to his teammates. It's not fair to the coaching staff. It's not fair to Zeke. Like, so that part right there began to see the situation to get a little out of control because you can't prepare mentally and physically when you know one of your key cogs, is he going to be there, not going to be there. So I think 2 weeks ago, that was kind of the hallmark moment right there. That was the major
when he was
distraction.
Reinstated before the Chiefs game.
Yeah, on a Friday.
Right.
Yes. So it's not fair to his teammates. His teammates are much better off mentally now knowing that, okay, this is what we have to do. All right? Nothing's going to happen. It's not going to get overturned, regardless of what the owner, because the owner thought, oh, yeah, he's not going to. I haven't seen any wrongdoing. Okay, those 6 games right there let you know something did happen.
And if for no other reason, they're not going to be 50,000 microphones in front of every player asking week after week after week about what they think about this. Now they actually move on and actually try to make the playoffs. Moving on to the marquee matchup of the weekend, it's the Eagles taking on the Cowboys. Showdown between 2 young star quarterbacks, Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. It's been more fun for Wentz this season. It was more fun for Dak last season. The Eagles are an NFL best 8-1, and Carson Wentz is among the favorites for MVP. But he passed around the compliment jar, saying he's been impressed with Dak Prescott.
Dak's a great player. I think it's exciting for this conference, for this rivalry, for this league. But a lot of respect for him and what he's done. But at the end of the day, we have enough with just it being the rivalry week that it already is. He's a great dude. Great dude. Obviously, he's a good leader. He's done well. So, like I said, it's exciting. Exciting for this division and this rivalry. At the end of the day, we're playing the defense. I'm not playing Dak Prescott. You know, I'm playing the Cowboys defense.
It's a fair point. The quarterbacks are not facing off against each other, but it's a fun conversation to have between Carson and Dak because there are so many similarities just in where Dak took his team last year, where Carson took his team, is taking his team this year. So let's start on that avenue. Carson or Dak? Talk to me. Like who would you rather have?
I mean, 6 of one half doesn't matter.
Right.
I'd love them both. I'd love them both in Denver, please. But you know, I think I think both of them have great leadership. I think they're both very similar in their ability to lead, their likability, the respect that they have in their own locker rooms. You know, all things being equal, both very good athletes. I'd probably take Carson simply because 6'5", 245. And that's probably where I would go. But I don't think there's any wrong answer. And I've said this a bunch. The young quarterbacks, we always wonder where the young quarterbacks, where the next group of elite quarterbacks are. They're in the league right now.
Yep.
It's Wentz. It's Dak Prescott.
Deshaun.
It's Deshaun. It is. I mean,
Jared Goff.
Goff. There are a bunch of young, outstanding. Russell Wilson, I still consider young. Talented, you know, like
Tom Brady, you know.
Yeah, Tom Brady's a vampire, so he'll be around for another 50 years. So, I mean, yeah, so all these guys, it's a great group of quarterbacks that are in this league right now.
Yeah, I think it's a special time, too, in the NFC East. This is where I cut my teeth, drafted so by Philadelphia. So I know the rivalry, how strong they are. You know, Philadelphia, Washington, all of them are strong. Philadelphia, the Giants, with Dallas with everyone. But to know that we're going to be talking about this for the next 10 years, this is exciting. You know, there's some great quarterback combinations. I remember early in my career seeing Marino and Kelly. Who would you rather have? So now we're going through that again with greatness. We're trying to split. Okay, who would you rather have? Both of these franchises are very satisfied with the picks that they've made. Both of them got it right. Both of them are going to win a lot of championships. The question is with these two is who wins a Super Bowl first? Because we're going to watch them. We're going to break down this matchup a whole bunch of times. Philadelphia, right now, with the supporting cast that they put around Carson Wentz, they're a really special team having a special season. Look for Jay Ajayi to be more involved, all right? They had the bye week. He was acquired 2 weeks ago. So look for now, after the bye, for him to maybe touch the ball 15 times in the J. Zach Ertz is having a great season.
Great season.
All right? He was out before the bye. He's coming back. So we have the best team with the best record in Philadelphia, adding a couple pieces down the stretch that might be able to compensate for the loss of the left tackle, Jason Peters.
And that's where I was going to go because you look at it, it's not only quarterbacking, but it's coaching. Yeah. What do you do when you lose a prominent player like that? So the Philadelphia Eagles lose Jason Peters.
Great example.
Right? They're facing the Denver Broncos. You think the Denver Broncos can rush the passer? You're darn right. Run pass option, 3-step drop, run it at the guy. I mean, they completely obliterated the Broncos, and they took away the pass rushing by the way they called plays, by the way they called the run, by the way they set up the run pass option,
and he didn't
traps.
get sacked 8 times like Dallas staff.
Right, and then the Dallas staff just said, hey, go one-on-one out there. Good luck to you. You know?
Good luck, Chaz.
Not only did he not get sacked 8 times, this is unbelievable. Carson Wentz has played 25 career games. You know which game he was pressured the least of those 25?
I would say the Broncos.
The Bronco game.
And it was all
3 pressures in that game, but with no Jason Peters.
It was all coaching. It was, and I'm not saying the players aren't good because they've got great players. Lane Johnson on the other side is a great player. They've got great players, but they took a kid who came in there for Jason Peters and said, you know what? We're not going to ask you to lock up one-on-one with the edge rushers of the Broncos. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do this by the way we call this game. I mean, there were so many read zones.
Right.
I mean, they had these guys spinning.
It was
they
the
had
opposite of what the Cowboys did.
Right. They didn't allow you
Tyron
just to
Smith.
line up and say, okay, let's get a revolving department store door of pass rushers out here. They were like, we have to defend everything. The run, the pass, the short pass, the up kicks. I mean, it was a masterful job of coaching.
And one of the reasons why I believe in New England so much is the most underrated skill in the National Football League consistently every year is coaching. All right? We just forget about it. We look at all the names and everything. We don't look at coaching and how in this game, the ultimate team sport, how important coaching is. And those are 2 great examples of 2 organizations. One, the quarterback's being empowered, and the other one gets his ear knocked off. You know, so that's why I love New England, because they empower the players to do what they can do, and they don't make them do things that they can't do. It seems so simple, but that is kind of the secret sauce to being a good teacher and a good coach, is put people in winning positions so they can perform well.
So this has been, to me, like a really interesting conversation about 2 really good players. And the question was, would you rather have one or the other? And no one's really given a definitive, it's got to be this guy answer. And I'm not going to either, because the reality is there isn't a right answer to this, not yet. What is most interesting to me is these 2 guys have had very similar careers, just in the reverse order. So like Dak's year 1 and Wentz's year 2, the numbers are identical. Now, Wentz isn't done with his year, but Dak's rating was 104. Wentz's rating is 104. Dak had 23 touchdowns to 4 picks. Wentz has 23 touchdowns to 5 picks. They both had 7.9 yards per attempt. It was identical, right? Dak is now struggling a little bit as of late this year. Well, why? Well, all of a sudden, his most important offensive lineman's gone. What happened to Carson Wentz last year when he started to struggle? Oh, for him, his most important offensive lineman appeared to be Lane Johnson.
Yep.
He was gone. Well, Carson Wentz all of a sudden has this amazing rushing attack. When they add Jay Ajayi to go with LeGarrette Blount. Last year, Dak had Zeke Elliott at full strength. So we've seen these 2 guys have very similar careers. Just one went year 1, year 2, the other year 2, year 1. And now we get to see them in this division to have the answer. If you would have asked me this question going into last season, I would have said, well, obviously, it's Carson Wentz. I don't even know who Dak Prescott is. If you would have asked me the question after last season, I would have said, well, obviously, it's Dak Prescott. Carson Wentz isn't very good. And now at this point, I'm like, oh, okay. So both of those takes were terrible. Now it's actually that they're both very good, and neither has distinguished themselves from the other. I don't think there is a clear-cut, this guy's definitely better than the other. I do think that these 2 guys, to just transition it a tiny bit, these are the 2 guys why another team in that division, the New York Giants, better draft themselves a damn quarterback, because everyone else in their division's got one.
If you tell me the game plan is you got to back the quarterback up and throw 40 times, I got to take Carson Wentz.
Right.
Because I don't know if Dak can do that. All right? I know Carson can. If you put the same support system around and you back him up and say you got to win the game with your arm, I'm going with Carson Wentz over Dak at this point.
All right, it'll be a fun one to watch. Rodgers, number 12, back on the field, a field. Some potential great news for the Packers. According to reports, Aaron Rodgers was spotted taking snaps from a trainer. Rodgers was put on IR on October 20th and would be eligible to return to the field week 15. CC, should the rest of the NFC be worried if Rodgers can make a comeback this season? And part 2, didn't you break your collarbone? Is this according to the proper timeline? Or is this way too early for him to be back on the field?
I came back too early. I came back in 5 weeks for the playoffs, but playing wide receiver and playing quarterback, I would have higher hope or expectations if it was his left compared to his right. So, yes, I see he's got full range of motion, but playing quarterback, and that's the most dangerous position when you have a broken collarbone, is the position the quarterback plays in. When he's throwing the ball, he's exposed. Yep. So I don't think he's going to come back this season. Just like Martellus Bennett, he quit on the Packers. I think the Packers are done. And I wouldn't put Aaron Rodgers back out there Because I don't think he's going to be fully healed week 15.
Real quick on yours. Did you have surgery?
No.
So
no,
that's
didn't need it.
That's the other part of it.
Didn't need it. It was a clean break.
Is when you opt to have surgery, it extends the recovery. And so when Rodgers broke his collarbone previously, he didn't have surgery. He did come back in week 17. They won that game, and they ended up going to the playoffs. To answer this question, should the NFC be worried? No, because by the time Rodgers is allowed to come back, the earliest he's allowed to come back, because he was put on the IR, is week 15. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4 games until week 15. That is at least 1, 2, 3 losses. Like, I understand they just beat Chicago,
right.
But the Packers without Aaron Rodgers are not better than any team in the league. You might be like, but wow. Nick, they played Cleveland in that stretch. Yeah, the Packers without Aaron Rodgers at Cleveland, that's probably Cleveland's one win this year. It's certainly a pick'em. The Packers, but they play Tampa. Tampa is better than the Packers without Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
I can't go through the schedule. What they would have to be is a minimum of 7-6 with 3 left. If we all still agree it's 10 wins minimum to make the playoffs, you would have to be 7-6 at a minimum. That would mean 2-2 the rest of the way. They don't have 2. They can't find 2 wins.
So why bring him back? Why even? What's with the optics? Why even put him on the field and try to work his arm?
Well, no. There's a certain rehab that he has to take, regardless if he's going to come back or not.
So this is when he would, whether it was during the season, off season, the timing is exactly on pace with where he should be back on the field, just starting to warm his shoulder.
Well, no. In the off season, you take the appropriate amount of time. When you go to the doctor, Jenna, and you have, say, you sprain your MCL, the doctor tells you, Jenna, you shouldn't be training for 8 weeks. A team doctor in the NFL tells you you're going to be out for 2 weeks, and then we're going to put you back in there after a week with a brace on. So
but that's my point. Why would they even want to try to rush him back early?
Because Jenna, what I'm saying, I'm not an oracle. Like, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this week they beat Baltimore. Maybe Joe Flacco throws 4 picks, and then maybe they do beat Tampa Bay. And
certain guys recover a lot faster. He's got to rehab his shoulder, regardless. Now, he spent some time in California. He's back now with the Green Bay and their staff. This is the normal procedure for which you go through. His season's not over with the team. Just because you're injured don't mean you just go off somewhere by yourself. You still have to report to work. You still have to get treatment. You still want to be around your teamenates to be able to support them. So this is normal stuff that you do in rehabbing an injury like that.
And tell me if I'm wrong here, Cece. Well, I understand. Hold on.
That was my line.
When you break a collarbone, we saw it with Romo, like, you're more susceptible to break it again. I get that part of it. But this isn't like a ligament tear where if you rush a guy back, you are risking serious long-term irreparable damage. Like the Robert Griffin III situation, where it seemed like they probably shouldn't have played in that playoff game. They put him in that playoff game. His career is never the same afterwards. Like, it's different with a break of a bone. So I don't think they are, by having him out there doing snaps with the trainer, it's not like you are risking Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And that's the reason why I played in the playoff game against Washington, because all I could really do was break it again. And if I broke it again in the playoff, it was going to be the offseason, so we had plenty of time to recover.
So Cavs won their 3rd in a row. They beat the Hornets 115-107. LeBron scored 31 points. He dished out 8 assists. And once again, Kevin Love came up big. He chipped in with 22 points of his own. But according to LeBron, Cleveland's offense wasn't the key to this game. Take a listen.
Our defense was phenomenal. We had a great game plan, and we were just in tune. We executed it. Our fourth quarter lineup, they started, and they was getting stop after stop after stop and executing offensively. So it was a big roll win. It was a big trip for us, overall.
All right, Nick, I will ask you if the Cavs find. I know that you never thought there was a problem, but based on what NBA fans think, do you think they think? Is it a collective thought that the Cavs are really trying to, at this point, turn things around?
I mean, I can't speak for NBA fans. I can speak for myself that I'm not in the business of turning around ships that are headed in the right direction.
Oh, okay.
So this is where the Cavs were always going to get to. Now, I am certain.
Now, you're not like Cam. You do realize what happened to the Titanic, right?
I do understand. I didn't say the Titanic. I said ships in general.
Okay, no problem.
Maybe talking about
full working ship.
Carnival Cruise Lines, owned by the owner of the Miami Heat, LeBron's former team.
Mickey Erickson, yes.
So, listen, this does not mean the Cavs will not have bomb performances in a bad way. They will. I mean, by the way, part of this 3-game winning streak, the most recent game prior to last night, was a game against the Knicks where they were awful for 3 quarters. But what the Cavs now know, and what I think everyone is realizing, is even without their second best player, their second best offensive player most notably, they have a top 5 offense in basketball. The Cavs right now have the 4th best offense in the league, and their second best offensive player that's playing is Kevin Love, and their 3rd best is Kyle Korver. Like, they're going to get an injection of instant offense come January. The defense must get better. They cannot simply rely on LeBron going 31, 6, and 8 every night, but they can rely on him going 29, 6, and 8 every night, because that's about his season averages. So the Cavs will be fine. They were always going to be fine. The big moment for them this season, to me, was their last loss. They went to Houston. They played a really good game against an excellent team, and they played the type of basketball they're going to need to play to achieve their goals. They ended up losing that game, but since then, especially offensively, they've been a different team.
And that's what LeBron talked about. He talked about this 4-game window. Even though they've won 3 for the first time this year, things kind of made a turn in Houston. You know, they're starting to play better. They're starting to understand the personalities. They're starting to realize Kyle Korver is a huge part of what they're going to do. Dwayne Wade is going to pick his spots. Jeff Green is a huge pickup, or adding more athleticism to the team.
Yeah.
J.R. Smith is playing better defense in this 4-game span than he had earlier in the season. And Kevin Love has been consistently getting 20 and 10. LeBron's playing more of the point guard. Right. So they're starting to understand the characteristics for their team. He's got 7 new teammates, starting to understand what they can do, what they can't do. And in doing this, LeBron, because he's handling the ball more than any time in his career.
Sure.
He's going to have more turnovers. But as a defense, they are better, all right? Last night, they weren't great in the first half, but most of the shots were contested, and they really clamped down. I think they only gave up 40 points.
40 points in the second half. I want to make this clear. Like, the Cavs' defense still is really bad. It's ranked last in the league, and even if you just take the last week and a half or so, it would be ranked in the bottom 6 in the league. So the defense isn't fixed, but it's trending in the right direction. And where you guys give me a hard time for being, I call it truth-telling about LeBron. You guys have different words for it. But one of the reasons you can have a top 5 offense without multiple all-stars, without multiple great offensive players, is because we showed in that highlight clip a pass LeBron James threw behind the back that hit the guy in the shooting pocket.
Yes.
He was driving to the basket, whipped it behind his back.
22 feet away.
Yep.
And the benefit you get, and I think Kyrie is feeling this, one of the reasons his shooting percentage has dropped in Boston, not because he's shooting more. The benefit you get when passes are delivered exactly where you want them.
Yes, it's an underrated skill for guys who do pass and are good passers. Yeah. Can they get it where you want to shoot it? And, I mean, LeBron is... It's phenomenal to watch him play. And it's phenomenal to watch how his game is evolved. And he's so efficient. You know, he's totally different than Jordan. He's totally different than Kobe. And he's totally different than the player he was 8 seasons ago.
I want to ask you about Dwayne Wade for a second, because the whole situation right now confuses me a little bit. He's averaging less than 9 points a game. They're not going to cut the guy. It's LeBron's best friend. But I don't understand. And you say, when you talked about Dwayne, you said he's going to have to pick his spots. But explain that to me a little more. Tell me a little bit more about his contribution and how he's helping this team.
No, he will have a role because he's a veteran player. He's a finals MVP. And when they get to the playoffs, Dwayne Wade will be big. Okay. Now, he needs the endurance of the regular season and also the overall chemistry, all right? There is not the emphasis on the regular season for a guy that's won multiple championships. He's trying to feel his way around. Yeah. He knows this is LeBron's world. He doesn't have the legs. He can't play above the rim the way he could. He's not the defender that he could. But a lot of these intangibles, when you get late in the season and in playoffs, when you get in a 7-game series, Dwayne Wade is a guy that you want on your team. He's not only one of the greatest NBA players of all time, but he's also one of the great teammates.
So I am maybe less bullish than Cris about Dwayne's on-court contribution potential late in the year. I think if they got one great playoff moment from D. Wade, one vintage 8-minute stretch where he scores 14 points and helps them win a game, they'd be happy with it. Wade is a guy who lived on his athleticism, never really developed an outside shot, certainly not a three-point shot, and now that athleticism is gone. Where Wade is incredibly valuable is the second thing Cris said. As a teammate, as a leader, and as a tone setter. LeBron, there are a lot of unfair criticisms about LeBron. A fair one is the guy is moody. The guy gets pouty. The guy gets in his feelings, and he sends out passive-aggressive Instagrams and tweets and Snapchats. It is very difficult to be on a level with a guy like that, to be able to check him. His coach can't do it. His GM can't do it. His owner can't do it. D. Wade can do it.
Okay.
Because they're best friends. They're legitimately best friends. It is there is a benefit to, I think one of the best things about this television show, not to be congratulatory to us,
is that we're best friends, me and you.
Agreed, that as well.
Awesome.
But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people that do these shows, they do the show, and then they don't, they only speak at work. We are all good friends, and I'm not being disrespectful to what you just said. Cris is probably my best friend.
Okay, you know what?
So, Jenna, hold on, don't be upset. Don't be upset. Hold on a second.
Really
but
upset.
it's important to be able to, in any work environment, be able to have an off-the-air or off-the-court friendship to where you can say, hey, man, I didn't like this, or I did like this, or do more of this. You benefit from it when you have that comfortability amongst each other.
But it's easier to understand because you contribute a hell of a lot more than Dwayne Wade contributes. But I understand what you're saying about the relationship.
But this is the thing, too, though, Jenna. You can't forget their history.
Yeah.
All right? Like, they've been best friends before LeBron went to Miami.
Yeah.
Like, they were deciding they were going to go play with each other regardless. Like, they've been friends, him, Melo, Chris Paul, like, they've been friends and had relationships that exist for a long, long time. Jenna, they're paying him the league minimum.
I know.
Okay? Like, man, this is...
And hold on, I'm confused. I'm confused. I think in that analogy, you thought I was Wade?
No.
Hold on, what happened there?
Just to recap, we're not best friends. They are best friends. Looks like trusting the process has been the right move for the 76ers all along. Joel Embiid dominated the Lakers last night. Nick went into his upper register for that, scoring 46 points along with 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 7 blocks. Here's Embiid after the game.
I was just playing basketball, being aggressive just like I was against the Tigers. Too bad there wasn't any trash talker out there, but I still have fun. And I got going. I just want to be aggressive. That's my new mentality.
Nick, what do you think? Is Joel Embiid already one of the best players in the league at this point?
As long as he's healthy, he's, to me, in the top 20. If you consider that one of the best, then yes. And I mean, Joel Embiid is still, he hasn't hit his 60th career game yet. Like, I understand he's been in the league multiple years, but as far as games played, this is like midway through his rookie season. When he was coming out of Kansas, the draft profile on him was, if everything hits, he can be Akeem Olajuwon. Now, Akeem Olajuwon, by my metric, is the 12th greatest player in the history of the sport. So that is very, very high praise. I get that. But when you watch the footwork that this 7'1" behemoth, look at that. That's a double dream shake that he's exhibiting. And you watch the synergy he already has with Ben Simmons. When these two guys have 15 career games played together, you see the potential. I worry about his health. Big men with foot problems do not have a great history. But when he is out there, he is one of the most fun players to watch and one of the most fun players to listen to talk in the NBA.
The 76ers, they have an exciting future. It's official. The process, it did work. I mean, they have a phenomenal amount of talent that's still undeveloped. Joel Embiid, you talk about the dream shape, comparing him to Olajuwon. But his ability at 7'1" to be able to shoot from the three, his stat line, Jenna, were 46 points, right?
Yeah.
He only took 20 shots. All right? It's almost impossible to get 46 with 20 shots. He's 16 of 19 from the free throw line. Now, he's 7'1".
Yeah.
So be a great free throw shooter, to have the inside repertoire, what he does have, to be able to pull people out to the three-point line.
Right.
There's no center in the NBA like him. We might talk about Karl Anthony Towns, you know, in Minnesota, him being able to do that. But this kid is very special. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop worrying about the injuries, because the last 2 games have been career highs in minutes for him. 36 minutes the game before, 34 minutes last night. So man, I'm hoping and praying he stays healthy.
I know we're going to talk about Lonzo, so I just want to make one Laker comparison. Watching 6'10" Ben Simmons and 7'1" Joel Embiid, one oversized point guard, one freak you've kind of never quite seen a comparison for at center. It reminds me a little bit of a duo the Lakers had once upon a time with Magic and Kareem. Now that is, as obviously, that is getting way ahead of myself. But man, oh man, these guys are fun to watch.
For what it's worth, I do that in relationships all the time.
Oh, whoa.
As good as Embiid was, that's how
All
bad
right,
Lonzo Ball was. Ball scored. That's why we're best friends, and we've only had 50 shows. Ball scored 2 points in this one. 2. He scored 2 points. That's only one better than 1 point. He went 1 for 9 from the field. Bad enough that LeVar is reportedly considering dropping Lonzo from Big Baller Brands.
That's a good one,
That
Jenna.
was a joke. But Nick...
And that was a good enough joke. I am certain neither you nor Brumley wrote it.
Nick.
I don't know who wrote it, but it was a great joke.
All right, Nick had that joke. Nick, who wants all the credit for his jokes. That was a good one. What should the Lakers do with Lonzo? What do you do with a situation like this where you want him to get better, but playing is not making him better?
In fairness, that was Sam Pepper's joke, who I crush a lot, so I want to give him credit. What I would
You
do with
stole a joke that we stole?
stole.
That's a double steal.
Yep, I should play for UCLA. So what I would do with Lonzo is I would consider putting him in the G League. That used to be the D League. I didn't want to call it by its right
Gatorade
name.
League?
Yeah, the G League. If you're not going to play him in 20 minutes and he's not going to have any confidence, I would say, because we know Lonzo can hit some free throws. He hit about 70% in college. We know he can finish around the rim. He had a above 70% field goal percentage in the paint in college. We know he's not the worst three-point shooter in the world. He was an above average, not great, but an above average three-point shooter in college. Let him get his confidence back by playing against guys like he played against in college. Because last night, going up against another rookie, granted a guy a year older in Ben Simmons, he did not look like he belonged in the same league as that guy.
My biggest problem is because he's got 2 aspects of playing the point guard position down, all right? He rebounds really well, all right? His assist-to-turnover ratio is good.
It's outstanding.
All right? Those 2 aspects. So I wouldn't send him to the G League because he's a better player than that, all right? He's got to get a lot smarter. He is not a good shooter. They got the tip in the game last night. Lopez gets the tip. They come down, run the first play. They do a pick and roll. He shoots a 25-footer within 8 seconds on the shot clock. And if you look at the stat sheet from last night, he was 1 of 9. He shot 6 3-pointers. Now, he is not going to get better till he gets smarter. He needs to be able to drive the ball in the lane, get to the free throw line. They need to play at a faster pace so he can get some easy looks. Stop shooting 3-pointers, all right? You're the worst shooter in the NBA. All right? So your shot selection, you need to understand the reason why you're the worst and take out the shot that is the most difficult for you.
And you need to understand why you're wide open, Lonzo. Lonzo. I want to still be a buyer on Lonzo, but in your last 6 games, you're averaging 6 3-point attempts a game. Most of them are open. You know why you're open?
You're not making them.
Because you're shooting 20% on
shoot
those. They are asking you.
Yeah, they're backing off of him.
It's the same reason Derrick Rose has been open from 3 his whole career, because they want you to shoot those. Now, you got to be able to, you got to be good at something when it comes to scoring. You don't have to be good at everything. You don't even have to be good at most things. You got to be good at something. You got to be able to make defenses pay for some type of way.
My career advice to him is do just like you did with Pepper this morning, and just like his brother did in China. He need to go somewhere and steal somebody's jumper, and add that to his rebounding and assist game, and keep him on the Lakers. I would limit his minutes.
That's what I was saying.
I wouldn't be forced to start him. If you're only going to play him 20 minutes, it doesn't make sense to start him and then not play him in the
So you're okay with him
quarter.
playing 20 minutes, or you want to see more time?
Yeah, but it's how it's dispersed. Why are you starting him in the game, then he don't play the whole fourth quarter? Or it's just a courtesy start because you're the high draft pick.
Right.
It's a sense of entitlement. We're going to put you
Fans
out there
come to
when
see
he's
you
not the best point guard on the team.
And what about you with minutes, real quick?
I'd send him to the G League and let him play the whole damn game. And let him get some confidence back.
Steal somebody's jump shot.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.